21 Savage was just on your show, and he talked about the Bankroll Fresh situation. He said that he felt he was lame for saying what he did about Bankroll Fresh. I think and this was sort of, it started with the No Plug interview that I did. That 21 Savage, he was actually at the apartment when we were doing the interview. Like, I never actually had a real interview with 21 Savage. He just happened to be there, so we just did it with, when he was there. And a lot of people were mad at me over.
Wait, you interviewed? Well, you did 21 right after, right?
Yeah, it was the same couch, the same pile of money that No Plug was on. And man, and I remember, everyone was really upset at me for interviewing No Plug about, about the killing of Bankroll Fresh. A year or two later, they actually released the footage and showed that Bankroll Fresh actually had the gun and fired first, and then they returned fire.
Yeah, and actually, in a rare thing, the footage actually kind of showed that not even possibly, it was proven to be just self-defense.
It was proven to be self-defense. So it was kind of like a lot of people, I remember even, me and Charlemagne had a falling out over that. You know what I'm saying? Because he felt some type of way about it. And then later on, it was like when we finally started talking again, I was like, you see that I was right the whole time. I'm interviewing a guy who protected himself in self-defense. Now, Bankroll Fresh was the bigger artist at the time. 21 Savage was just starting out. So people's, being fans of 21 Savage automatically took his side and were mad at me. But ultimately, the real truth came out. But 21 Savage himself was not really in that situation. So I thought that was actually real mature for him to actually say, I was lame for saying, for really jumping into that whole situation. And I think he even said he apologized to those guys.
Yeah. So I think, he was very close to the situation though, because he never like.
Well, he was friends with No Plug.
Yeah, but he never like disassociated from them. And there was some stuff going on like with people that were associated with, So inevitably he was going to be seen not favorably by people on Bankroll Fresh side, but what he was ended up talking about was, I guess they did a club performance and he whispered in his ear and he said, "Yo, tell him you the dude who killed Bankroll Fresh." He was explaining, and by the way,
and No Plug was like, I ain't gonna do that. Like,
and by the way, like during this interview I did with 21, like, I brought up Bankroll Fresh, but I was bringing it up as a, just a conversation piece to be like an analogy to something else we were talking about. Mm-hmm. So he took it on himself to say, nah, he said, I want that to go out. He even told me, he said, nah, put that out, please.
Yeah.
He clearly has grown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think he just kind of realized a lot of that stuff. If you watch that interview, man, like he's when he came in the game, he was so ignorant. And even his thought process was a little ignorant, but he grew up fast.
Yeah, 21 Savage is one of those people that I feel acts their wage.
Yeah.
He has 100%. Absorbed, when you look at him, he's got the tattoos on his face and you think maybe, oh no, like he's a certain type of way. But in fact, he actually absorbed, what people around him were doing and saying, and actually matured and grew into really like a well-balanced artist and a well-balanced human being and a well-balanced business person and so forth, who doesn't get into a bunch of shit and really has handled his business. From what I understand, he owns his masters, everything else like that. Shout out to 21 Savage, man. I think
I'm shocked
he's done
by
well
him
for himself.
To a certain extent, because a lot of dudes who come from that environment, right? A lot of dudes who come from that environment, they refuse to grow up because they don't want the people from that environment to look at them like they pussy.
Yeah.
To look at them like they weak, like they selling out. And I've just watched someone who has used all his advantages to try to improve his knowledge, to become a better person, to reflect on some of the stuff like, like, shoot, there's a part in there where he talks about, he talks about why he could say, hey, y'all stop the violence. And then people were getting at him when they were like, yo, you rap all this stuff. And he's like, yo.
Spin the block twice like I got no place to park.
Yeah, and he made a really good point, and obviously people could disagree with it or not, but it made a lot of sense in how he viewed it. He's like, yo, listen, I can only talk about things I've been through. And he's like, I do talk about other things as well. You guys might not want to latch on to it.
Yeah.
I've been through trauma. I talk about that. But a lot of my life, I went through certain things. He's like, what you call glorifying it in certain senses isn't necessarily me glorifying it. You know? And he's one of the rare examples of like street rappers in their prime actually having some knowledge of self, growing and understanding what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I agree.
That didn't serve like, some niggas got to go to jail for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when they come out, they're like, all right, I get it now. But like, he's a rare one.
I mean, I'm sure the whole thing with getting deported and everything else like that probably shook him up quite a bit. I mean, to get to a certain point, knowing that you may have to get kicked out of the country, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure that kind of...
Nah, he was always like this, though. When I went down to Atlanta and I did like a little series with him, and he was someone who clearly... There's sometimes few dudes who... They street dudes, but you could tell like their mind is a little bit elevated beyond the regular bullshit. Mm-hmm. They're not just there trying to just wallow among the fucking pigs all day and just like blow their opportunities. You know, he was about elevating back then. And again, you know, I don't know how someone gets there, like, you know, on a manufacturer level. I think you just have to be that person. So